1. The black fog clung to Jacob as he rode into the village. Thick tendrils of fog swirled and eddied around him, forming cryptic shapes that reminded him of heroes and villains from his collected tales. Jacob shooed away flies and squinted through the haze, searching for any signs of life, but not finding any. He coughed and cleared his throat and was beside himself with the smell of putrid flesh and blood. Limbs and heads were scattered about. Men and women lay in unnatural positions. Others lay butchered and twisted, their eyes gouged and their mouths hanging open. "Wilhelm, where are you?" His hand instinctively moved to rest on the hilt of his dagger. Long and deep shadows shook and shuddered with hidden menace, as if the darkness held secrets of the unknown and unknowable. Jacob could feel his heart racing as he scanned the abandoned streets of the village for something, anything, and he found nothing. There was an oppressive silence, save for the caw of crows and the wind howling through small, crumbling stone homes. Something was watching him. He could feel it in his bones. Just as he seemed ready to call out his brother's name, a tiny figure sprang from the shadows, startling his horse so that it reared and almost thrust him to the ground. The creeping fog, 2. "Whoa!" Jacob struggled to stay in his saddle. He held on tightly and waited for the horse to calm down, and when it did, he turned to a young boy in tattered clothes, who was no older than 10. The boy shifted nervously and stared up at Jacob with frantic eyes. He was in shock, trying to discern whether Jacob was real or a figment of his imagination. Jacob swung down from the saddle and approached the boy, his hands raised in a placating gesture. He meant no harm. He just wanted to understand what had happened to the village. "Steady, young friend. I wish you no harm," he murmured as he edged closer to the boy. "What happened here? Who attacked the village?" The boy trembled. His lips quivered as he stared at Jacob and struggled with his words. "They're gone," he whispered. "The fog, it took them." Jacob's brow furrowed. He didn't understand. The boy was describing the fog as though it were a living thing. He kneeled to the boy's level, ignoring the chill seeping into his bones from the damp and bloody ground. "What's your name, boy?" Jonas," the boy stammered. "Calm yourself. I need you to tell me what happened here." And as the boy considered his words, Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had befallen this village was far beyond his understanding. The creeping fog, 3. Jonas's words tumbled out of his gasping mouth, his small frame shaking like a tree in a storm. "It was Father first. He went out to check on the sheep but never came back. Then others started disappearing too. When I looked out from the barn, I couldn't believe what I saw. The fog taking my aunts, uncles, and cousins, as if a living snake from the depths of hell." Jacob's face hardened. He had heard strange tales about a fog in the Black Forest, acting as a doorway between worlds, but he had never heard of it devouring people. "How many were you in the village?" 34. Jacob nodded. "I have heard many stories about the fog, and I believe with all my heart we will find your father and the others." The boy's eyes widened with hope. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. The fog began to churn and roil like a pot of boiling molasses. Jacob's hand instinctively went to his dagger. Words caught in his throat, Jonas raised a hand and pointed a trembling finger towards something in the approaching fog. Grotesque forms that defied description emerged from the molasses like nightmares given form. Motionless, Jacob stared at the fog as creatures from all the cautionary tales he and his brother had collected began to take shape. He closed his eyes and muttered silent words of hope. The Creeping Fog 4. Jacob opened his eyes and reached for the dagger at his belt. He stopped breathing, his eyes widening as he absorbed the advancing darkness. Then, from the encroaching fog, a tendril shot toward Jonas, curling around his ankle like a deadly snake. Suddenly, the boy released a blood-curdling scream, and Jacob lunged forward, but it was too late, and Jonas was instantly yanked away and dragged into the deadly fog as his terrified cries faded into the murk. Cautiously, Jacob went after him, pushing forward into the darkness. It wasn't long before he came upon a monstrous almond tree he half remembered from a fairy tale. It had rotting human limbs as branches, and on those branches dangled 34 heads caught in agonizing screams. Jacob continued through the fog after the boy, swinging his dagger in wild arcs, slicing through the vicious tendrils that reached for him, his movements growing increasingly desperate with each passing second. "Boy, where are you? Speak!" As if in answer, a tendril wrapped around Jacob's wrist. Instantly, he yanked his arm away with a scream. Then he heard something. Something familiar. A voice. It came again and again. "Jacob, help me, brother!" Jacob froze. "Wilhelm?" He peered into the darkness. "Wilhelm!"